Welcome to The Blue Dot, Northern Kentucky's premier political podcast, brought to you by the Kenton County Democratic Executive Committee. Welcome back to The Blue Dot podcast for our weekly roundup, where the news is fast and the facts are free. I'm Natalie McDonald. Thanks for joining.
And I'm Brian Kale. Hey, another whirlwind week, Natalie. Probably at the top of national and international news is that Trump's little excursion into Iran, commonly known as a war, continues at the cost to American taxpayers of over $1 billion per day. And not to mention the related price increases in any product or service that depends upon petroleum, such as plastics, packaging, and transportation. So, in short, just about everything. Trump is the only guy I know who, when he goes on an excursion, he packs Tomahawk missiles.
He sure does. And yes, it is increasing the cost of living everywhere. And one more thing we all really don't want or need is a tax on alcohol. But Republicans in Kentucky are close to doing just that. Republican Jason Petrie sponsored House Bill 9, which proposes a new 4% regulatory fee on alcohol sales as part of a restructuring of Kentucky's alcohol tax system. Now, mind you, this is on top of the 6% sales tax that already exists, so Kentuckians would effectively pay 10% on alcohol purchases, and bonus, in cities like Newport that already have a 2% regulatory fee, they'll be paying 12%. So not fun for those who want to go have a happy hour.
That's right. Happy hour just got more expensive.
It sure did.
HB 9 was formerly known as House Bill 612, but the supermajority decided it was now a priority bill and moved it up to House Bill 9. It passed the House on March 10th by a vote of 63 to 31, and now just needs to pass the Senate. For obvious reasons, hospitality leaders have been pushing back against this bill, as well as bars, restaurants, breweries, distillers. You know, this will surely deal another blow to the bourbon industry and other related businesses that are struggling right now. In fact, restaurants across the state are closing at a fast pace, citing labor, food, and rent costs.
Yeah, and this isn't the first time the GOP kind of snuck a sales tax increase onto us. Back in 2023, House Bill 8 dropped the state's income tax from 5 to 4.5%, but Republicans slipped in a 6% sales tax on over 30 industries that previously were not taxed, like Uber services, parking, recreational sports, weddings, and spa services. So they just kind of slipped that in on us.
Yeah, this is the party of tax relief, right?
Right.
But hey, we're told affordability is a hoax, Natalie. You know, affordable housing is one issue that many Americans struggle with. But we learned this week that, according to several news sources, Trump told Speaker Mike Johnson that nobody gives an F about housing. Or let's just say Trump doesn't care about it because his priority instead is getting the Save America Act through Congress and signed into law. He and the Republicans call it a voter ID law, but the Save America Act is in actuality a proof of citizenship law. The GOP's goal is to force every American to show their papers in order to vote. And acceptable papers do not include a driver's license, not even if it is a real ID. No, only a birth certificate in which the name matches the prospective voter's current name. Hey, too bad if you're a woman who took her partner's name after marriage. Or you must have a passport or military ID with a matching name.
Yeah, Brian, and less than 50% of Americans have a passport. And it's expensive. It's also time-consuming to get. It'll tax the system even more. And most Americans don't have ready access to their birth certificates. That's only helpful, again, is like you said, the birth name matches the person's current legal name. So I'm really hopeful that the SAVE Act won't pass, as a few Republicans are crossing the aisle to join the Democrats in voting no. However, I want to go back to that statement, what you just said, that Trump said that people don't really care about housing. I can say Kentuckians sure do care about affordable housing. And we're going to be talking to a housing expert next week about not only the crisis, but possible solutions. So we're looking forward to that conversation. But in good news, we do have good news. We do have some good news.
Yay.
While we do talk a lot about the bad bills, and we talk a lot about those bad bills in the supermajority in Kentucky, but people across the state and nationally are starting to understand that Democrats have a better plan for working families, and District districts all over the state are now considered competitive because of it.
Yeah, that's right. And to highlight how Democrats are focusing on improving the lives of Kentuckians, we can start by pointing out that Governor Andy Beshear vetoed House Bill 1 on Friday, blocking the use of tax dollars to fund private schools. And Democrats have introduced Senate Bills 164 and 165 to establish universal pre-K for all 4-year-olds. If successful, these bills will significantly expand early education access to young Kentuckians and support working families by alleviating childcare demands and costs, enabling many parents to return to the workforce at a time when we are seeing widespread labor shortages.
Yeah, and not to mention, both of those actions are very popular in the state of Kentucky. And
Yeah.
another win came from Kentucky Congressman Morgan McGarvey as he finally was able to get bipartisan support for the Cutting Copays Act by tucking it into an appropriations bill. The Cutting Copays Act aims to eliminate copays for generic prescription drugs from Medicare Part D recipients. So that's a good one, too.
Yeah, but unfortunately, we're still going to feel the pain of the $28 billion, the big, bad behemoth of a bill cut from Kentucky. There's a lot of B's in there. To put that into perspective, the first week of Trump's war in Iran cost more than $11 billion, roughly the same amount Trump's ugly budget takes from our rural hospitals, many of which are now at risk of closure.
Yeah, and if you think that's bad, we were just given the receipts for the military's use it or lose it budget, which forces the Pentagon to forfeit its unused money and potentially see reduction of funding in the following year if they don't use it. But instead of using it on salaries for service members, upgrading military housing, or scores of other expenses, Hegseth went on a little shopping spree, and I just wanted to talk about a couple of those. Keep in mind, Brian, these are all for the month of September. So in September, we saw a 564% increase in furniture spending, mostly office furniture, but it came from premium manufacturers. And this is to go along with about $12,000 worth of 3-tiered fruit basket stands. I guess just to have next to your office there.
I got to give me one of those, I guess. Didn't know how important they were. And I also saw a $100,000 Steinway grand piano for the Air Force Chief of Staff's home. Well, okay. I mean, maybe the Chief of Staff is a fledgling Liberace, you know. We don't want to discourage that. And maybe the Department of Warmongers leadership needed furniture. But here's where it gets really crazy. Again, in September, the department spent $2 million on Alaskan king crab. It's the 5th time the Pentagon under Donald Trump has spent $2 million or more on king crab in a single month. I mean, twice during Trump's first term and 3 times in 2025. It's only happened one other month in history in February 2021 prior to Trump.
How does a government agency do that? Not to be outdone, though, they consumed $6.9 million in lobster tail. $1 million, $15 million for ribeye steak. And I think, hey, if you're going to spend that much money, it should have been a filet, you know?
Yeah, no kidding.
But and then there's other things like $124,000 worth of ice cream machines. Then we have sushi preparation tables. It just goes on and on. It's crazy.
I'm sure it's hard to relate to the average American struggle with affordability when you have nearly unlimited taxpayer dollars to live like royalty. I mean, this just proves once again why it is so important for Democrats to get out and vote this November and flip seats in Kentucky. This year, Democrats will be running for all 3 county commissioner seats in Kenton County, and 2 Democratic candidates, John Bussey and Jordan Baldridge, running for commissioner in District 3, participated in a forum hosted by the Kenton County South Citizens Group.
Yeah, both Jordan and John did an amazing job addressing a key concern to southern Kenton communities, which is the county's Site Readiness Initiative, or the SRI, which calls for the industrial development of 5,400 acres across southern Kenton County. It has proven to be very unpopular, and we're going to actually have Ben Bach, candidate for Commissioner District 2, on the podcast in a couple weeks to really dive into the facts surrounding the SRI.
Yeah, Spectrum News 1 hosted the Democratic candidates for a U.S. Senate debate on Tuesday, March 17th. 20 candidates filed to run for this seat, 7 of which are Democrats, but only 4 of these Democrats are invited to be in the debate. Amy McGrath, Charles Booker, Pamela Stevenson and Dale Romans.
Yeah, we got to hear from all four of them, and they were the four that met Spectrum's candidate criteria, and that required candidates to have raised at least $100,000 in total individual contributions, according to the most recent verified filings with the FEC, when that was Q4 of last year. Or they must have previously appeared on the ballot in the same district that they're running for or the state and received at least 10% of the general election vote.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this funding criteria left popular candidate Logan Forsythe, who we've had on the podcast, off the stage because while he met the funding criteria, it was after the last filing date. I mean, this really shines a light on how difficult it is for the average Jane or Joe to mount a competitive campaign, especially when we have people like Elon Musk, who probably has never even stepped foot in Kentucky, funneling $10 million to people he knows he will be able to manipulate if they get elected.
Oh, goodness.
So I don't know. If that doesn't have you fired up to vote, I don't know what will. If you haven't registered, you must do so by April 20th at 4 p.m. And if you don't know how to register or have any questions, call us. Call the Kenton County Democrats. We'll be happy to help you out.
We sure would, and we would talk about it now, but we do not have time because our 10 minutes are up for the Weekly Roundup, where the news is fast and the facts are free. Until next time, stay curious, keep the facts in focus, and never stop fighting for what matters. Peace out, everyone.